The conversation really could have started about 20 minutes ago when you
Yeah,
got
fair
here.
enough.
That's kind of, how things go. It tends to be pretty relaxed. Ask nerdy questions about things that interesting people do.
Absolutely. I'm
And
down with that.
so, without further ado, let's just do this introduction and then we'll get into it, huh? Hello and welcome to Start the Beat with Sykes. My name is Sykes and this is my podcast. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank everyone who checked out the last episode. If you're one of the people who listened to that conversation, I hope you enjoyed it and thanks so much for coming back. But for those of you out there who are new to the show, welcome. Please feel free to make yourselves at home. And as always, there's beer and soda and water and Red Bull and whatever else you like in the fridge. How's everybody doing today out there in the internet? According to this screen in front of me, it is August 12th. We're living in the future. This is being released on August 12th.
Oh.
And,
I have no concept of time, so you could have honestly probably just been like, it's August 12th. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, you're right.
Cool. And I'm sitting here today with my new friend, Jinx.
Hello.
Say
hi.
hello to the internet, Jinx.
Yes, hello, internet. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's great to meet you guys.
We're happy to have you here. For those of you that are tuning in that aren't familiar with Jinx and what Jinx does, are you having headphone issues?
No, I was just like, where was it supposed to be? It's okay.
If you want to, here, take them off, and we'll pull them under.
You right. Okay.
Check that out.
Science.
So,
okay.
Besides being a headphone technician,
honestly, learning.
Tell the internet about what you do.
I am a professional wrestler based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And doing that thing.
That's pretty cool. You are the second wrestler I've had on the show. Out of, this is episode 237, I believe.
Who was the other one?
So the other one was my good friend Wyatt, a.k.a. Remy LeVay.
Remy LeVay is one of my favorite people. Yeah. I love Remy.
He's a good dude. I've known that dude for a really, really long time.
Yeah, I love Remy.
Yeah, we met like probably 15 years ago playing in bands.
Yeah.
And we still hang out every other month at Brillo Box for MySpace night.
He wants me to go. I keep not being able to make it, but dude, Remy's a great dude.
Yeah, me and him do that event together.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
hell yeah. Even more reason to go.
Small world of Pittsburgh, right?
Absolutely. Such a small world.
So you are the second professional wrestler that I have had on the show.
Perfect.
And I, grew up, I think that I'm a child of the 90s, so I definitely had a wrestling phase.
Yeah.
And it never really left my body, but I don't keep up with it a whole lot.
Understandable.
But I don't have any disrespect for it or anything like that. Like, I'm super into it. I'm super into talking with people that are into it, and definitely interested in talking to somebody that actually does it. So for you and us meeting each other for the first time today, let's dig in just a little bit in the beginning. So how did you get exposed to professional wrestling?
Well, I think my story is much different than a lot of others because I was homeschooled a lot of my life, and it was right at like the heyday of YouTube when YouTube first came out, and there was absolutely like no copyright infringement. So literally just all of wrestling in the universe was for free on YouTube, and somehow just me being like a lonely, anxious middle schooler, being like alone homeschooling for the most part of my life, that was how I randomly stumbled upon professional wrestling. And from there, my love for it grew just sort of by myself alone on the internet. And obviously a lot of people have a time where they can be like, oh yeah, I started watching wrestling at this time. I started like when this was happening. I started watching in like this era of pro wrestling.
Sure.
But for me, I just like kind of took it all in at once.
Yeah, because you weren't real time. You were pretty much on demand with YouTube and just going nuts.
Exactly. And honestly, my family, like no one knew that I was even like a fan of professional wrestling until I told my dad that I was going to train to be a professional wrestler. Like no one knew because I like literally kept it secret from everyone because I was scared that like my dad was going to be like, what are you doing? Why are you watching this? Because my dad's like one of those people that like When I first got my Halo tattoo, like my Halo Spartan, he looked it up to make sure it wasn't a gang symbol.
Ooh.
So he's one of those people. Like he's one of my best friends, but he's like that. So I was like thinking he was going to be like, why are you watching that? You're going to start fighting people. You're going to start thinking that you can do all this crazy stuff. So I was like super paranoid.
In that aspect, he wouldn't have been wrong.
No, he wasn't. And I remember when I told him, I was like, I'm going to try out to be a pro wrestler. He at first thought I meant like amateur, like high school wrestling. And for some reason he was like, oh, cool. That's really interesting. And then when he was like, wait, you're doing like fake wrestling. I was like, yeah, what else did you think I was doing? And then he like was like, that's stupid. Why would you do that? You're going to get hurt. My dad, who was like, he was a gymnast and made it to like very far and was like gymnastics
You some
trainer.
athletic genes in you.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
for a little bit. But I think it was mainly he was just like, oh, I know how terribly it pained my body to do this. Why would you want to do this? And it came out as like, oh God, don't. But yeah, I kept it like, it was like my weird dark secret. And I really don't know why I was so embarrassed.
How long was this a weird dark secret?
A really long time. A really long time. Oh my God. So I probably started watching wrestling when I was like, maybe like 10 or 11.
Okay.
And I started training when I was I started a month before I turned 20.
Wow.
So
like almost half your life.
Yeah.
This was a thing. Did you have any like friends that were into it that you were able to connect with?
No. I mean, through the internet.
Okay.
Yes.
So like, did you like get on like message boards and stuff?
Stuff like that. Because like I said, I was very like, growing up, I was very like closed off, not from anyone's doing but my own. I was just a very anxious child. I was very afraid of other human beings and just very much raised by the internet and having friends through that. But it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Is being able to connect with people and find things through online.
So my next question would be, when did you realize that this was something that you could do? I guess at some point in time you had to have gotten connected with or found out about like the local scene of wrestling, right? Or something that was close to you.
It was a mixture of my own like spontaneousness, dumb luck, and the fact that I started doing for about like 2.5 years, I was like constantly doing circus arts. So I was doing pole dance and aerial hoop.
Okay.
And if no one knows, that makes you jacked. Like, dude, pole gave me a back of steel. And from that, I had always still had a love for professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And that was when I finally realized that like my body had a lot more capability than I ever gave it credit for. And through that, that's when the dumb luck came in. And I just Googled pro wrestling training in Pittsburgh and picked the one that was easiest to get to from my house.
Okay.
So that's how I started training.
No, I mean, that's I appreciate just how real that story is, because it really says a lot to how simple the most complicated things can be.
Absolutely.
Like on the surface, it seems like it would be this really complicated thing, but with all of the access to technology and information that we all have at our fingertips now, all you got to do is have a question, do some research, and then follow up on it.
Yeah. Like the one thing that I am personally always very open to on the internet and with everyone that I speak to is my battles with anxiety and growing up severely agoraphobic. Like I was terrified of leaving my home. So once that was probably the biggest stepping stone in my life, was to just find the courage in me to go to this creepy this weird line of warehouses in Jefferson Hills with a broken down wrestling ring in it and a lot of sweaty dudes, and just do a bunch of squats until they told me that I could come back and train. Like, thinking back on it, that's like insane to me that my body would even be like, okay, let's try this. But it's always just like things happen for a reason.
Absolutely.
And it was definitely dumb luck and just finally giving myself the credit that I deserved into being able to do this. And I was also just kind of like, if it doesn't work out, it just doesn't work out. I might as well try it. And it ended up just
Hell yeah.
changing everything.
With coming from that, we'll say, as you called it, agoraphobic background, breaking into the wrestling world and developing a character. I know that probably there was some time, obviously, in between, not trying to jump too much, but just that idea of like putting yourself out there on a stage and being very public and developing this thing and having to, in turn, be a performer.
Yeah.
Aside from all of the athletic things of it, I'm really curious about, I guess now I understand that the athletic aspect is what came first. And then you had to work on the performance aspect, because I was curious which one of those came first for you.
Honestly, oddly enough, I was much more scared of the athletic aspect when I started beginning to train. Once I get out there, I'm pretty confident in myself as a character. I'm pretty confident in, as much as I am like anxious and go through all of the what ifs in my mind, I felt pretty confident in the performance arts aspect of it. I came from a little bit of like a acting background and things like that. I did a little bit of that as a kid. I knew that was something that I wasn't completely uncomfortable with, but hadn't really found the like stage to put myself on for that thing. So the more I started doing it, the more I was scared of mainly the athletics part of it and the actual match structure of it. But like the whole performance art part of it, I felt a lot more comfortable with.
That's cool. Also with just that transition, how much we talked a bit about this before we started recording, but how much of your personal self, like how much of a character shift is it from you in your day life to Jinx in the ring? Like, is there a big shift there, like personality wise? Or do you feel like it's just like a more amplified version of yourself?
I feel like it's a pretty amplified version of myself. I think it all kind of bleeds over. I have a pretty big social media presence, and what I see put out on social media is kind of a more humanized, in the middle version of me in daily life and who I am in the ring. I like to sort of keep an air of just like, I don't know, I like having that middle ground, but also being able to go in the ring and really let it out. I like to be both personable and really just show the absolute pinnacle of crazy character. It's a lot of freedom. I think the ability to be myself in social media and also be myself in a ring, outside of a ring, cut promos, have like photo shoots, everything like that. I think it's awesome to have so many grounds of putting out your personality, and the amount of like daily life personality really depends on where I am. But in the ring, like once I'm actually in the ring having a wrestling match, I think that really is the like 1,000,000% pinnacle of like amplified me.
We had talked before we started recording. You had mentioned that there was three avenues of entertainment that you find very similar.
Yes.
Would you mind repeating that? I'd like to get into a conversation about this.
I think the three avenues of entertainment that go through very similar facts is independent wrestling, the music industry and bands and touring, and drag queens. I think drag queens and independent wrestling is like very similar, but also like we talked about the similarities between being in a band and being in professional wrestling. I think it's all very similar.
I have a friend of mine who, which to make the world even smaller, has co-hosted some MySpace nights with me and Remy LeVay, who does drag under the name Bambi.
Yeah.
That is also a huge wrestling fan.
That's awesome.
And I would love to sit down with Bambi sometime and have that conversation about, if they see those parallels as well.
You know what would be crazy? To have like a sort of like table for three thing between like someone in a band, a pro wrestler, and a drag queen.
Idea. Gonna bank it.
I like
Would
that.
you come back for that?
I absolutely would, because I'd be so interested in that. Because I'd be so interested to talk about the parallels in all of those worlds, like the differences and the parallels.
Yeah. I love like seeing everything that Bambi does online, because it just seems like there's so much stuff that goes into promoting events and all of the costume and the makeup work and photography and promotion, like all this. It's insane how much work gets put into it. Not everybody puts that much work in, but Bambi puts in so much work, and it's so impressive.
Exactly like pro wrestling. There's some people where it's like, it's okay if you don't, like, if you just want to kind of like work at the same place and like not, if you just want to work your normal job and do it some weekends, like that's totally cool. Sometimes that's what people want to do. But if you are like someone like Bambi or like a different professional wrestler, someone that like really works their ass off to promote like everything, is it's hard. It's crazy. And I think it is a lot of similarities between all of those three worlds. It's a lot of networking.
Another thing that I think that really pushes through in those three worlds, I think, is just having a certain level of like attitude or cockiness that I think you sort of need to have, but like balanced, not necessarily like an ego, like having a cockiness without the ego.
Yes, it's a weird middle ground, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
What was that like? How did you feel? I guess, like, I don't know. How long have you been technically wrestling now at this point?
Well, I've been on shows. In February, it was 2 years of me being on live wrestling shows.
Congrats.
And then I trained for a year before that.
Okay.
But I do consider it, I've been in wrestling for 2 years.
Yeah.
Being able to travel and do whatever I wanted.
Yeah. Okay. So, over the past 2 years, how has that part of your attitude and personality changed, if it has changed at all?
It's definitely changed. And I am still, obviously, I feel like everyone is still trying to find exactly where they want or need to be. And I definitely see a confidence change in myself, and a confidence change in my work, especially, is going back and watching my old matches and going back and watching the things that I've done recently. The only way I can explain how watching myself, I used to be so like timid.
Totally.
Like, and you can really tell when someone like in a band, or I'm sure doing drag or in professional wrestling, you can tell when someone is not confident in yourself. So even if you aren't really confident in yourself and you're a little bit like not sure, and you're like, I think I kind of suck, man. Like you fake that confidence until you make it.
Oh,
like
totally.
You gotta do that.
Yeah.
And it becomes easier as
again,
time
because
goes
the
on.
people don't know.
Exactly. No one knows unless you literally stop in the middle of it and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I hate this. I hate my life.
I don't remember if the camera was rolling when we were having that part of the conversation.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Me and Jinx were talking before the camera started rolling just briefly about the concept of getting lost in your own head in the middle of a performance and overthinking all the nuances of things about, like, I'm sure with you, it's like, executing a certain move right or landing right and things like that. And with me playing in bands, and, it could be like, hitting a certain, effect right or at the wrong time, and things like, just like little things that your average person, they're not going to notice it.
Yeah, no one
And even if they
notices
do
but you.
notice it, they're not going to care as much as you, and how
Exactly.
that can seep into your brain as a performer and like really affect your performance, when it's like, that's all it's like, you need to be thinking about you should be thinking about what's happening
Yeah.
in the moment, but you're just lost in your own brain.
Because even if those people do notice that you messed up, which like 90% of the time, they're not even going to notice that you messed up. But
No.
if they do, they're going to forget about it in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's like you ever play Guitar Hero?
Yes.
It's like, when you mess up and the crowd starts to boo, but you play a few notes right,
And they're
you're
like,
back up at the
"Yeah."
top. Yeah, it's like literally like
No,
that.
that's what performance is. It really is. And the thing that I've been working internally with myself a lot more is just reminding myself that it's an art form. It really is an art form. And in art, there is no right or wrong. If something is not exactly how you planned it out when you were talking it over, if something doesn't turn out exactly the way you thought it would, it's all an art form. And that doesn't necessarily mean it was wrong or it sucked or anything like that. It's just, it's evolving and it's kind of the beauty in it.
Compromise is a huge part of just, I think, being a functioning adult in general, but definitely if you are doing any form of performing arts in, events and just anything where there's, hundreds of variables and most of them are out of your control, you gotta become friends with compromise.
Absolutely.
Otherwise,
especially because you have to have a lot of reliance. I mean, in bands and in wrestling, you have to have a lot of reliance on other people. You aren't the only factor involved. And especially in wrestling, you aren't like, it's not like you can't control what everyone else is doing. So it's a lot of compromise and being able to figure that out, which isn't always a bad thing at all. It just kind of adds to it. It adds a challenge in a way.
Yeah. I think that it's good to compromise because sometimes you end up compromising with something that ends up being better for the bigger picture.
A lot of the times it does make it better.
Yeah.
Because it's like someone will come up with something or bring you something that you weren't even thinking about before. Like having multiple points of view is what makes art better in that way.
Totally.
Yeah.
We had mentioned, you were talking about watching yourself and seeing yourself evolve and watching old footage of yourself and things like that. You gave us a highlight reel.
I did.
And I think that we should play it before I forget to and before the camera dies because it's already on 24% battery because I'm a piece of shit and I don't know how to charge things. So we're going to watch this highlight reel and then I got another question I'm going to ask you that ties back into the pro wrestling, rock bands, drag scene.
Yes.
So
let's do this. I hate watching myself wrestle.
Okay, you don't have to watch. You can just drink
I'm
this
just
water. And maybe we'll I might have to ask you some questions about some things that happen here.
Okay,
so we'll see.
feel free.
We'll see how this goes.
I mean, it's pretty cool actually. You can turn down the volume too. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So you're throwing around some people here?
Yeah.
Oh, your hair was orange.
My hair's usually orange.
I like that.
It's usually orange. In the summer, I dye it blonde because the orange fades and like dyes everything I wear orange. So.
Have you ever left orange stains on opponents?
Oh, all the time. All the time.
So they might like grab your hair or something. Their hands are just orange.
That's legitimately why I dye my hair blonde. Because it dyes everything.
What is that? Whoa. Wow.
I had a hardcore match. That was the pinnacle of my career.
So that thing that you just did, we're going to pause with all the spinning. How long does it take to execute something like that in terms of practicing and rehearsing?
That move, things like that is a definite 50-50. Like you can't do it to everyone. It's a definite give and take in that move.
I imagine you probably, I don't know, how often do you get to actually like, what would you call it? I don't want to say practice or sparring. I don't know what you would call it, but like
training.
Training. Like how often do you get to train with people you have matches with?
A lot of times, for the most part, you just get to talk it over with them before the show starts. If you're lucky, you get to like get in the ring and play around a little bit with things and ideas you have.
Yeah.
But it really depends. Yeah. I've trained with a good amount of people that I have actually had matches with. So Yeah, but I have maybe once ever had a time where we could like beforehand go to a ring and try things like before the day of the
So
show.
like, yeah, I guess my question is with like certain moves, because again, I'm just making assumptions based
Yeah.
on like science and anatomy and biological and height differences between people and things
Yes.
like that. Like, are there like some people, like depending on who you are, who your opponent is, where it's like, oh, like a certain move is just not going to work because of like a weight difference or a height difference, things like that?
Yeah, I run into that problem a lot because I'm very tiny. But it's also a blessing because a lot of people can base for me because I'm very tiny. But there's also a lot of things that people can't do to me because I have tiny legs. Like people will be like, I want to put you in this leg hold. And I'm like, good luck. My legs aren't going to be there. But yeah, there are things where it is genuinely just like body types and styles. And if you were trained to know how to do that, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I guess that's the other thing too, is I think maybe, do you at least get to have some sort of like a discussion before, or is it like literally like during the match, like is there like certain like code and like signals that you give about like different things?
It's a mix of both.
Okay.
Like it's a mix of both. Crazier things, like if it's big big ideas or things like that, you wouldn't talk about it like during the match.
Yeah.
But it's sort of 50-50. And it depends
Just
who you're
throw a
wrestling.
garbage can on somebody?
Hell yeah.
This is fun.
A lot of my moveset is larger men throwing me at other men.
Yeah, I've noticed there's a lot of boys getting their ass beat in this video.
Yeah, that's another thing that we could talk about. I'm big in intergender wrestling.
Okay.
I've somehow become a forefather accidentally.
Well, I would imagine. I mean, I know already, like, if you're talking, like, top of the top, I imagine, like, there's already a much smaller demographic of females in wrestling.
Absolutely.
And if you want to, I guess, thrive in this, like, I don't know, what would be like an indie circuit?
Yeah.
That one way to get more work is to say, fuck it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's become a huge movement in independent wrestling.
That's super cool.
Intergender wrestling.
Okay.
Which I love. And it's very important to me to talk about the importance of men and women wrestling is just pro wrestling. There's no difference. And I don't think that anyone that's like, well, it doesn't make sense for a man to wrestle a woman because they're smaller and blah, blah, blah. Like, I think it's very important to talk about how you can do whatever you want and wrestle whoever you want. And I usually wrestle a lot of really big dudes. And like, I know one of the other videos I sent you was an entire like highlight someone made of me just in like doing intergender stuff.
Okay.
Because I've done a couple like roundtable discussions of me just talking about intergender wrestling with a couple other people that find intergender wrestling to be very important. And it's a pretty like recent thing to be more like widely accepted of just like dudes wrestling chicks. And it's been very important for me to stand my ground about how I think that it's something that needs to be done. And saying that women can only wrestle women is holding back not only pro wrestling, but holding back so many stories that can be told and so many different matches that can be put together.
Yeah.
And just really not giving pro wrestling in general the benefit of being able to do what it does and just be fun and art and not worry so much about, like, you can make anything make sense in pro wrestling. Like, no one got mad when Rey Mysterio wrestled the Big Show a million times. Why is it different if I wrestle like a 200-pound dude? I don't get it. Like,
I would say, I mean, again, it's not like this is boxing or something. You
Exactly.
know what I mean? Like this is, these are trained athletes that
yes.
have an open dialogue between each other, and you're
Yes.
creating entertainment for a group of people that just want to have fun in a fucking room.
Exactly. Like
the fact that you need to put gender into it and make it a big deal it's a distraction. You're kind of just talking about something that you're bringing like outside politics into something that is like,
absolutely.
I mean, it's almost like, you already in one way or another, you're suspending a certain level of disbelief as you walk into, professional wrestling.
Of course.
So if you're going to
it's like going to a movie.
If you're not going to suspend that disbelief,
yeah,
fully, and you're going to allow like other outside things to bleed into it, which I guess they're going to have to every once in a while, but something as dumb as that, like
something like bringing in, people are like so aggressive too about their stances on it. And I get it. There's a lot of like old school wrestlers that just don't want to change their minds at that point. And there's always going to be those old grumpy dudes. Like no matter what business you're in, there's those old grumpy dudes.
It's like, it's like they want the business to die with them.
Exactly. They don't want to evolve with it. I think they just like, they're too bitter to evolve with it.
And it's a really interesting thing because this is something that's really similar in music too, particularly with hip hop, where you have, professional wrestling as on the scale that it is now. It's a pretty young thing in the test of time.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's not 100 years old.
No.
Maybe like, there might be some old school leagues.
And it's just now
like,
starting, like independence, like what I'm doing is getting its very first resurgence in the last like 10 years, maybe. So
it's a very, very young art form.
Yeah.
So who's to say what is right and what's wrong and what is normal? I mean, that was like something that happened with hip hop, where you get a lot of older people that are very dismissive of what younger kids are doing. And it's like this genre is only 40 years old, maybe 50 if you want to push it in some aspects. Right. It's like, that's not a whole lot of time.
You still
This has only been a couple generations and it's going to continue to evolve.
And I think it's such a disrespect. I think in a way it's a disrespect to the music and a disrespect to pro wrestling to put a cap on it in that way.
Yeah, you should. I think like, people should be happy that anybody still gives a fuck about this and they're still like, putting their blood, sweat, and tears into building it.
Yeah, and there's so many more stories to be told and there's so many like, and it's not like any woman has gone into, or I mean, I'm sure, but it's not like it's becoming a resurgence of people wanting intergender wrestling so women can be like, oh, I want to be the damsel in distress. Oh, I want to get all the attention because a guy's beating me up. No, like we just want to be seen as equal members and that it's just pro wrestling. There's nothing different if I'm to wrestle a woman or I'm to wrestle a man. Like, I think that putting a cap on it and saying what's right and what's wrong in it, like you said, it's just great that people give a shit about it, especially women. The fact that, because like women in wrestling is so few and far between, and especially women that get into it for like good reasons and women that work their ass off. And that's like becoming a great thing recently. There's so many more women in wrestling that are just like incredible wrestlers. And for them to want to put themselves out there and be able to like wrestle whoever the hell they want and do whatever the hell they want, I think that's just like an incredible thing that no one should want to be like, no, sit back, stay over there and wrestle this little group of people. Like with hip hop, just like stay over there and just stay in this little bit of your genre. You can't evolve past that. Like,
yeah, it's not fair. And I think from a technical perspective, I would imagine if I was somebody that was super duper into wrestling from a technical perspective, that I would be really interested to see like, okay, we got, a smaller girl and a bigger dude in the ring that have to execute these technical things together. How the fuck are they going to do this? What's going to happen?
Exactly.
Let's watch how they pull this off.
It's a challenge and it's a cool challenge, not just to put together, but to watch. And I think that's a reason why it's so popular and it's becoming more popular is because it is something that you're like, oh, how are they going to do this?
It's like who cares about watching a couple big old sweaty muscle dudes
No one
throw each other around?
God, it's so boring.
We've seen it,
right? And like, sure, it was cool in like the 80s. People were like, hell yeah, punch that big guy so the other big guy can punch that big guy. Like, we're over it. It's really boring. Like, you have to evolve. Everything evolves. And yeah.
Absolutely. So going into sort of the behind the scenes of what you do, and this ties, as I mentioned before, we played your highlight reel.
Mm-hmm.
This ties in with the rock world and the drag world, and I think any form of independent entertainment. The use of alternative venues.
Yeah.
For what, you need to do. I can only imagine some of the places maybe where they've set up rings and you're like, this is where we're fucking doing this tonight.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I'm not
all the time.
And I'm not specifically asking you to call any certain venue out or anything, but just like, what has that experience been like and how does that affect the show?
Well, my home company is in Connellsville and it's in an old movie theater. It's super cool to be like, I wrestle in an old movie theater, but it's also like the acoustics of it and like the way it's laid out is kind of a pain in the ass, but it's very interesting. I've wrestled in a bar in Backwoods, West Virginia at 2 a.m. once.
Okay.
I was terrified. Everyone was super drunk. My nickname is Bloody Adorable, and it says it on the back of my gear, but the drunk people couldn't comprehend, so I had people chanting Bloody Tampon at me, which in the ring, it was just kind of gross. I was like, I'd rather you not. Drunk people crowd, that was wild. Dude, I've wrestled in so many weird places. Lots of I've wrestled in the school that Charles Manson went to in West Virginia.
Okay.
It's so full of asbestos, I can't actually wrestle there anymore. I'd love to wrestle there more, but it actually hurts my lungs. It's the first place I was ever able to actually do color commentary. I did commentary for an entire show there, which was awesome because I've always wanted to do that. But then later I was like, oh, my lungs hurt. This sucks. And it's a really cool building because I love that spooky shit and I love that true crime shit. So I'm just sitting there hell yeah.
Can't you just
Manson
get a mask?
Yeah, but I don't think I can wrestle in a respirator. I wish. It would be dope.
Make it part of the character.
Oh my God. Me just doing color commentary in a respirator, I'd sound like Bane.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Which would kind of actually be dope as fuck.
Fuck yeah.
The more I think about it, I'm like, you know what?
Compromise.
Compromise. I can come here and do your commentary, but I'm going to sound like Bane.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I've wrestled in a lot of very bizarre places, but that just adds to the adventure of it. Most places I wrestle are just random VFWs or gyms, stuff like that. So especially with indie wrestling, the possibilities are endless for where they will put that ring. I saw recently someone that I know literally wrestled in the exit of a highway. They set up the ring in the exit of the highway.
Okay.
Which
tight.
Yeah, I was like, okay, dope, but terrifying.
Yeah.
I know I'm missing so many things that I've just been to the wildest places.
In the past 2 years that you've been wrestling, do you have a count on the matches that you've done? Do you know?
Most wrestlers do. Most wrestlers have a specific count. I do not.
Okay.
It's definitely over 100.
Wow, it's a lot.
It's over 100, less than 200.
So how often are you going out then? Is it every other weekend?
It's usually about every weekend. The summer is a little bit harder because people don't really want to go to wrestling shows as much as they want to just travel and do their own thing.
Yeah. You want to come to this hot ass abandoned warehouse that we're putting this ring in?
No one wants to do that. I don't want to do that. It sucks because it's obviously the easiest months for us to travel, but it's the hardest months to get bookings. But when you get into like the good months, more like the fall, early winter, spring, like all of that, basically anything but months that people want to like actually go sit in a hot abandoned warehouse.
Yeah.
Those are the times when I'll probably be wrestling like every weekend. Lately, I've been wrestling usually like every other weekend. It really depends.
Gotcha.
I just like travel a lot. Like last weekend, I went to Crown. I went left on Friday. Went to Dayton, Ohio. Woke up at 7.
Was it at the Rockstar Pro Arena place? Okay.
No, it was. I didn't go there, but it was in that area.
Okay.
I went to Dayton, Ohio. Stayed the night there at 7. Woke up and drove 4 more hours to Crown Point, Indiana. Did a Ricky the Steamboat seminar. Got eliminated from a battle royal. I drove back to Pittsburgh, and then I drove to Philadelphia. Did an underground fight club in Shikara. And then I drove back and got back at like 4 a.m.
That's killer.
Yeah.
It's an awesome weekend. But you're here. And you're smiling, here. So fuck it.
It's a fun story. The drive was painful.
Sure.
But
sure.
I mean, it was okay because I had other people to travel with. I'm used to traveling alone because I'm weird and like I like to have control over everything that's happening around me. So I'm like, if I don't think you're going to be on time, you're not making the cut. Like
totally, fuck it. With playing in bands and alternative venue spaces on our end, we've actually played in a few places that have had wrestling rings.
I'm sure.
Which is why I know about the Rockstar place in Dayton.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've played there.
Oh, yeah.
And there was another place that we played in. It was like an hour outside of Chicago, and I don't remember where it was.
Chicago's a big wrestling place.
But yeah, so we played in this place, and they had a wrestling ring in there, and they had people doing matches in between the bands.
That's awesome.
And I remember and it was like hardcore matches. And I remember there's a video if you go back.
Like death matches, like people like hitting each other with chairs and
shit.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. There was like the barbed wire bats.
I love it.
There's a video if you go way back on our Instagram of somebody getting stapled in the head right in front of our merch table. I was just like sitting there like, this is the show tonight.
If you go back and find that, I will know at least one wrestler in that video. I will know at least one person getting messed up while you are playing.
It was fucking awesome. I will try to find that video. But yeah, everybody there was really cool. That was a really fun dynamic and an interesting, one of the cooler alternative venues that we've played for sure.
Music and pro wrestling, like concerts and pro wrestling do go hand in hand very well. And I wish they would happen more often. I wish I could be part of more shows that are like concerts and wrestling incorporated. That show that I wrestled at like 2 a.m. in buttfuck nowhere, West Virginia. We didn't start until late because a band was performing before us in the middle of nowhere.
Why did it just happen all at the same time?
Dude, I wish, because I was like,
you talk to your people, I'm going to talk to my people. Let's make this happen.
While this cover band is playing, I'm just going to go out here. Like, you guys can just make it work. But yeah, I always think that those are really fun. Those are really fun. And then I know now in like the Rex Theater downtown or like on East Carson and stuff like that, they do wrestling shows now too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, they do wrestling shows.
Okay.
More like lucha-based wrestling shows.
Oh, okay.
That are crazy. They don't do like music during it or anything like that, but it is at the Rex Theater.
Yeah.
It's very easy to use music venues for wrestling shows because of like usually like high ceilings. There's nothing in the floor to like get in the way. Stage AE hosts Ring of Honor whenever they come into town. Yeah. And I've done ring crew for that.
Cool.
A few times at Stage AE doing those, which is pretty crazy because they'll put the ring in like on the floor in Stage AE, and then up on the stage is like their back room and like their dress and like their dressing room and stuff like that, and where like the commentary sits and things like that. So it's really funny being someone that's gone to so many concerts at Stage AE to then go and set it up and watch like a wrestling performance have it look completely different. So yeah, they always make do with what they got.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
So we're going to take a temporary pause in the conversation because what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this dead ass camera.
Hell yeah.
The audio is going to keep going.
Okay.
And I'm actually going to set my phone up to get the rest of the video.
Oh, beautiful.
Because compromise.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
it's the name of the game today.
While I'm doing this, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on social media?
Sure.
And if you have any events coming up.
Absolutely. So my social media, I always get confused because one has an underscore and one has an X. So I have to like look it up and make sure that I'm telling you the right one. But my Twitter is bloodyxadorable. And my Instagram is bloody_adorable, which are both what I'm like mostly active on. I have a Facebook, which is facebook.com/wrestlingsjinx, but I don't post on it because Facebook. So yeah, those are where you can find me all the time. I'm very easily accessible on all that social media. I think I'm really funny on Twitter, so that's what matters. You can watch a lot more of my things on there. Listen to me like talk a lot about memes and how much I really like my dog. And then my next show that I have coming up that is fairly local, if I can not be a terrible person just on my phone this whole time looking for it.
The camera's not rolling.
Oh, perfect. So they don't know. They just think I have this off the top of my head. Beautiful. So my next show that I have a couple week break as of now, unless something comes up, which that happens sometimes. And I'll just randomly be like, okay, time to go to the other side of America because someone asked me to 2 days before. But my next actual booked show is for Rise Wrestling, which is based out of Connellsville. They are my home promotion. I love them all dearly, and they will be trying out a new venue in Springdale, PA, at the Springdale Veterans Association on August 17th, Saturday night, doors at 7 p.m. I will be posting a lot more about that on my social media and stuff like that as it comes closer in the next couple weeks, because they have a show this coming Saturday I will not be on. And then after that, I'll start promoting the hell out of their next show. And yeah, that's the next place you can see me, the next local place you can see me. And yeah, all that fun stuff. Definitely follow me on Twitter specifically because I'm fun.
Okay, and we're back.
Oh,
supposedly,
cool. Hey,
we'll see
back.
how that goes.
Sweet.
We can't keep an eye on it anymore, but it doesn't
Oh,
matter.
well,
We're trying our best.
we'll hope. We can
It's
hope
fine.
for the best. It'll be something.
I have such a hard time with Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's not the social media platform that for me.
For pro wrestling, it's very important.
Yeah.
I don't know why specifically, like pro wrestling has decided that it needs Twitter. I mean, I guess because it is like a very easy way to just like quickly keep up with everyone and to see what everyone's doing all at once. But social media in general, mainly like Twitter and Instagram, are very important for pro wrestling.
I could see Instagram. I could see Twitter too. I could see all of it because
Yeah.
everybody gravitates to different things.
It's easy way to get out content. Really easy way to get out content. And that's what you need to do is just get out that content.
So steering this conversation into a few just personal curiosities.
Sure.
I'm curious about how you balance business and party.
Oh,
Like having a good time, doing what you're doing, but also remaining professional. Do you ever like get wild at shows, after shows? Do you have any like things like you like to do after shows, places you like to go eat, drink, things like that? Like what are you into?
I feel like the thing that's fun about wrestling is it does kind of all like blend together. You do kind of have to have, obviously you need to, after you put together your match, do a job on that, have your match, everything like that. After that, you can really just hang out. It's wrestling shows are a great chance to see your friends, people from all around the country that you don't get the chance to see that often. So yeah, I don't think I get like super wild. I know that there's some people that get really wild. Really, I think the only the biggest no in professional wrestling is like, don't get fucked up and then like go wrestle someone. Like, don't
Oh yeah,
do that.
you're putting yourself and the person in
Yeah,
danger.
like,
Totally.
Don't. But after that, just like have fun, be wild. Obviously, like also feel out wherever you are. You don't want to be that person in a room full of like serious people just like, turn up, I brought my White Claws, bitch. But yeah, other than that.
So is there any I guess this is a question I like to ask a lot of bands is about like places they like to go eat after shows and things like that. With you being like having this like really athletic aspect of what you do, I'm curious about like, do you have like a specific diet or do you just like...
I don't, because I am made of mozzarella sticks and coffee.
Hell yeah.
I am just made of caffeine and terrible food. So I try my best.
Okay.
But usually, I mean, a lot of people, even wrestlers that like follow really heavy diets, once after a show, like you just wrestled, you are probably really sore and tired and you want to go home. Like we stop in at Sheets.
Yeah.
And like we go into Permanis because they have that like
oh hell yeah
4, 5, 6 menu.
Yeah.
So yeah, it depends on the person. I don't have that problem because I'm a monster. So yeah,
cool.
It's just me alone on the floor eating SpaghettiOs at 2 a.m. Like other wrestlers who just like eating grilled chicken, like 15 meals of grilled chicken a day. And I'm just like, I go to the gym, but also I really like Taco Bell.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
I also am lucky to have the fastest metabolism of all time.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, there's some people.
I can't I can't diet. I physically can't, or I will turn into even more of a string bean than I am already.
Okay.
Because I've tried.
So you got to keep them gains up.
I have to keep them gains. And by keeping those gains,
mozzarella sticks.
I have to go to Olive Garden 3 times a week. So
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Tour Italy, motherfucker.
Carb loading is real to me. I need it. I will convince everyone that that's what my body needs.
All right, so here's a hot button question.
Oh man.
Scale of 1 to 10. How bad is Olive Garden really? 10 being terrible, 1 being awesome.
Dude, I fucking love Olive Garden. Olive Garden is my all-time. So, like, a 2. Hell yeah.
I love Olive Garden too.
I would die for Olive Garden.
I fuck with Olive Garden.
The funny thing is, I do have a friend who is in the professional wrestling scene with me. His wrestling name is Mambo Italiano, and he has legitimately come over from Italy. Like, he is an Italian man that speaks very broken English. And following him on Twitter is hilarious because of his broken English. And I love him so much. But yeah, he says that Olive Garden is not great.
Oh, yeah.
But he doesn't get an option in it because I'm not from Italy.
Fair enough.
He's not allowed to tell me what's good Italian food.
Hell yeah.
Unless he plans on making me Italian food.
Hell yeah, dude. You could fucking wrestle over it.
Exactly. Dude, he actually just recently had a pasta death match.
What?
And also, I think, a baguette on a pole match. His name is Mambo Italiano. Look him up.
This just sounds like a Wednesday for me.
Yeah, he's wonderful. I love that man.
Yeah, check it out. That is fucking hysterical.
Yep.
So, cool. Before we wrap everything up, the final segment is going to be some listener questions.
Okay.
And all of listener questions this week are going to be dedicated to and from my friend Toddy of the Thrifty Podcast. Shout outs to Thrifty Podcast.
I feel like I've heard of them. I think they wanted to go thrift shopping with me and my friend Calvin Couture, and I'm still down for it if you'd like to. Please do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Calvin and I fuck hard with thrift shopping.
Oh, yeah.
So please take us thrift shopping. I would love that.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm giving you a good plug here, dude. So Toddy's show is they take a guest thrift shopping with them, and then they just go thrifting all day, and then they go back and record an episode about everything that they found.
Dude,
and he's a big wrestling nerd
that
too.
That sounds like a fucking dream for me. Yeah, I love thrift shopping.
Yeah, he's really super duper into wrestling, and I guess so that was actually his last question was, does she want to do thrifty? Toddy asks.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Okay.
I want to do it now at this exact moment. Please.
You got it, Toddy. We're going to make it happen.
Right now, I'm coming to you. I want to go thrift shopping. I'm ready. That sounds so fun. I'm so down.
All right. Awesome. So here's the next question. So Toddy asks, biggest TV influence for wrestling?
My biggest influence of all time is Mick Foley. Mankind is like one of my biggest influences. I'm a big ECW girl, like original ECW. Raven is also a very big influence on me. Spike Dudley, because I just like to be tiny and thrown at things. But if we're talking like current TV influences, because the product's evolved like so much. And I feel happy that we're finally in an era where I have female television influences in wrestling.
Totally.
Not so much in WWE, but in Impact, there's Tessa Blanchard, who is always like, she is the GOAT of wrestling. Not just like in females, like Tessa Blanchard is the GOAT. Jessica Havoc is amazing. Rosemary is amazing. All those girls in NXT are killing it. So it's like, because growing up, we were in like the diva era where women's wrestling was just models that they would make money off of doing bra and panties matches. And like, obviously, that was not my jive. So I am super proud and super thankful to now be in an era where I can be like, oh, I'm influenced by these women that are making it bigger. And I love that we can all like bring each other up and really look at wrestling and kick ass together.
Hell yeah.
And see women on like bigger levels that aren't just being used to like exploit pervy men, you know? Like it's women like kick ass now. But yeah.
Great answer. Toddy also asks, what's one wrestler that you like that everybody already likes? Like just one wrestler you like, I guess, is like really, really super popular and you're like, okay, I'll give it to him. And then on the flip of that, a wrestler that you like that nobody's talking about at all.
Oh my Lord. Okay. So a wrestler that I like that everyone else likes, I'm going to go more independent with these because I'm much more in the independent scene, obviously. Orange Cassidy is freaking amazing. I also love Nick Gage because he's gang affiliated. I love him so much. A wrestler that no one's talking about that I think everyone needs to talk about and everyone needs to love is a wrestler that I actually did that move to that you were like, oh, wow, that's crazy. His name is Lee Moriarty and he's local and he is probably like, he's very humble and does not realize it, but he is possibly the most talented person I've ever met. He works so hard and he needs to be everywhere. People do recognize his talent, absolutely, but I think he has not had that lift up enough to have everyone recognize the talent that he has. So Lee Moriarty is a really big one that everyone needs to check out if you haven't.
Check it out, Toddy. And that's it for listener questions.
Oh.
And wrapping things up, one thing that I would be curious to ask you about is just for anybody out there that maybe isn't a watcher or somebody that engages with professional wrestling, especially on like an independent level, where do you think would be a good way for a good outlet for people to like engage with that they could maybe discover more if they're interested? They're still listening to us talk about this and you're like, hey, I want to check this shit out. Like, do you think that there's like, what would you suggest? I'm sorry.
I would suggest subscribe to the WWE Network. It has everything, but also watching like NXT right now is an amazing product. Going and watching like 205 Live is like a really big showing of the product and what's more seen in like independent wrestling and stuff like that. And from there, I feel like the network's a great place to start. They just put out a Beyond Wrestling show on there, which is an independent promotion that they've been working with. And then from there, you can find a lot of easily accessible things online, going and looking through Twitter and stuff like that. Facebook a little bit is just finding different promotions. There's a lot of places that put out free matches on YouTube just to give you like little hints of things. And then you can be like, oh, wow, I really like this. I'd like to see more of this show or more of this person. And then you can go from there and decide what you want to spend your money on, which I think is an awesome part about professional wrestling and social media, is that you can really pick and choose and find what you like, because people are smart enough to now be like, here's a little tidbit of something for free on YouTube. Here's a little tidbit of these matches from this big show. And then from there, you can decide what you want to go forward with. And I think that's always an awesome thing to do. But definitely check out the WWE Network to kind of, it's a great place to start, other than just like be on YouTube like me as a weird 11-year-old.
But hey, look at you now.
Right? So maybe you could. Maybe that's what you should do. There's copyright infringement rules now, so it's not as easy, but you can go there.
That sounds good. And you know what? That's all, folks. Thanks so much for sticking around. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. Jinx, one more time. Fist bump.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It was awesome.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I love it.
It was really cool. I could probably easily talk to you for another hour or two. But
absolutely. Next time we have to do that table for 3 and find a drag queen.
That's the plan.
Dude, I would love that. I would love that.
Bambi, if you're listening, we're coming for you.
Please, I need this.
If somebody out there knows Bambi, just let them know we're coming.
Because, oh my God, I want to do this so bad now.
Yeah, I'll be back again next week with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. You know the drill. My name is Sykes. Start the Beat 2019. Woo, woo! Thanks for listening. You know what I totally forgot to do? When you were talking about them cheese sticks?
Yeah.
Should have dropped in those sound effects.
You're right.
Fuck.
Fair.
That's okay.
Well,
cheese sticks. Now
that's how I feel about cheese sticks.
Cool.
Fried food in general.
We're done.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much.